So why don't we give folks one more minute, just because it takes sometimes a minute to connect. Oh, there's Dina.
Dina came. Awesome. Welcome, folks. We are recording for folks who can't make it, so if you don't want to be on camera, just turn your video off.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to go ahead and get us started. We'll talk slowly in case we have a few who join late, but what's kind of nice about this size group is I think we have time to each introduce ourselves, which, you know, not to put any of you on the spot, but if you could just share your name and where you're working or your job title, I think that'll give us a good chance to kind of get to know each other a little bit before we all come together in a couple weeks. So I'm Sammy Morris, and I am head of Archives and Special Collections at Purdue University, and I'm on the local host team that is organizing the Leadership Institute, and I'll have Chris follow up next.
Yeah, I'm Chris Atchison-Clare. I'm also on the local team. So I here at Purdue direct the Center for Intercultural Learning, Mentorship, Assessment, and Research, and I'll be collaborating with Nastasha, another member of our team, as well as one of the guest facilitators that we have coming in, Rebecca Hankins, on the intercultural and diversity, equity, inclusion theme of the Institute. And since we do have an advisory board member here, Dina, if you want to go next.
Hi, I'm Dina Kellums. I'm director of the University Archives at Indiana University, and I'm on the advisory board. I was in the 2010 cohort, I think.
Ages ago, right?
Awesome. And we just
there's Rebecca.
Yeah, we just had Rebecca join as well. If she can do a quick intro, that'd be great.
Rebecca, if you can hear us, we've just started introducing ourselves, if you wouldn't mind doing that.
No problem. I've had Zoom issues.
We all do.
Yeah. So sorry about that. I don't know what's opening on my computer. I'm Rebecca Hankins, and I'm at Texas A&M University. Am I supposed to say anything else?
That
should say it all, people.
You just share whatever you like.
I'm in Texas. That should say it all.
Yes, I don't even want to go there right now.
Yeah, we don't need to go there, else I'd be talking the entire hour.
Yeah, and I would probably get mad and have to go outside for a minute. So we will just carry on. So if you all don't mind, I can kind of see you in an order in my screen. So I'd like to just call on you in that order. And again, all we need from you is just your name and your title and where you work. So Edith Sandler, if you wouldn't mind going next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Edith, and I work at the Library of Congress in the Manuscript Reading Room, where I'm a reference librarian.
Sammy, you are
I'm just talking away. Nobody's listening but the dog. Lydia Spots, would you please go next?
Hi, I'm Lydia Spots. I'm in Indianapolis, and I was working in museum archives. Now I'm, as of the last 2 semesters, I'm a lecturer at IU in Indianapolis.
Awesome, thank you. Lotus, would you mind going next?
Hi everyone, I'm Lotus Norton Whistler. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I work at Washington State University, which is in Eastern Washington, and I'm the community archivist there.
Thank you. Ashley, could you go next, please?
Hi everyone, I'm Ashley. I'm the Assistant University Librarian for Special Collections and University Archives at Towson University, just north of Baltimore.
I wondered where that was. So that answers, and also how to pronounce it. I think I was pronouncing it wrong. Catherine Giles, could you go next, please?
Hi, I'm Catherine Giles. I am the State Records Branch Manager at the Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives.
Very nice. Tara.
Hi everyone, I'm Tara Maharjan. I'm the Processing Archivist for Special Collections and University Archives at Rutgers University Libraries.
Good geographic dispersion we have here today. Kevin, could you go next, please?
Everyone, I'm Kevin Spotman. I'm the head of archives processing at the Rare Book and Manuscript Library at Columbia University in New York.
Terrific. Ryan, could you go next?
Hi, everyone. I'm an archivist at the Archives of American Art in the processing department, also kind of specializing here and there in reference and born digital records, and I'm in Washington, D.C.
I have lots of questions for you, Ryan. I'm very interested in museum archives, and I used to have my toe in that pool, so I'd love to talk with you sometime about what's going on in that world. Jessica Harden, could you go next for us?
Hi, I'm Jessica Harden. I'm the collections manager at the Archives of Michigan in Lansing.
Super, thank you. Kate Dundon.
Hi, my name is Kate. I'm the supervisory archivist at the University of California, Santa Cruz, Special Collections and Archives.
I bet you're having better weather than we are today, Kate. Rachel, would you mind going next?
Hi, everyone. My name is Rachel Van Unen. I'm the archival processing manager at MIT.
Very good. Let's see who's next. Katie Rojas.
Hi, I'm Katie Rojas. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm head of archival processing at the University of Virginia, Albert and Shirley Small Special Collections.
Very good. Sorry, did I interrupt you?
No.
Okay. I want you all to say as much as you'd like, but I also want to get to our questions too. Yeah. So Brian Whitledge, would you mind going next?
Yeah, my name is Brian Whitledge, and I am the archivist for University Digital Records at Central Michigan University in Mount Pleasant, Michigan.
Awesome. Not too far to come to Purdue. Lydia Tang, would you go next, please?
Hi, I'm Lydia Tang. I'm Outreach and Engagement Coordinator with Lyrasis, and so I'm glad to be here.
Terrific. Jane Cross.
Hello, I am a music archivist at the Library of Congress.
Oh, that sounds very interesting. Well, so nice to meet all of you. And we had another member of our host team join. Nastasha, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. My name is Nastasha Johnson. I'm Associate Professor of Library Science here at Purdue in the School of Information Studies. I have a few jobs, and one of them is a Provost Fellow with the Office of Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging. And one of the things I claim is actually my time spent with the Center for Intercultural Learning, Mentoring, and Assessment with my colleague, Chris Eckerson-Clare. There, I'm an Intercultural Learning Officer.
Okay, did I miss anyone? I think I got you all. I have 20 people on my screen. So really good to have you all here. Just a reminder, we're recording because there were some people who couldn't join us today that really wanted to get this information. And it's a very informal thing. And if we don't need all of our time, we won't take it. But what I wanted to do was show you all where we've begun putting the readings and logistic information and the schedule for the Institute. There's a place on Google Drive that I will send the link to everyone in the cohort later today, or one of my colleagues will. So I'm going to show you that information today so that you see what's there, and then you can go to it and peruse as you like. And then the other thing I wanted to do today was just have time for Q&A. So are there any burning questions we want to get out of the way before we start looking at the Google Drive? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so let me just take a second to share my screen with you. I always get confused on this because I cannot remember the difference between Teams and Zoom. Let's see, are you all seeing my Drive ALI 2022 readings and logistics? Does that look good?
Yeah.
Okay, super. And do speak up because it's hard for me to see all of you while I'm looking at this. So the The first thing we have here is a directory, and the directory includes every member of the cohort, your title or your place of employment and your email address. And then it has email addresses for our local host team and our advisory board and our facilitators and speakers. So I just want to let you all know that if you do not want to have your email shared, we're happy to remove that. But what we have right now is everyone's email here, just so that we can connect more easily. So feel free to, browse through this as you like. People are kind of split up according to their roles. So you'll get to see who all the speakers are and the advisory board members and so forth. Any questions about that before I go back? Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is our schedule for the week. Please just keep in mind that we have so many different people speaking and participating that this could change slightly before the day of the Institute, but we think that this is a really close to final draft. So the first part here is some important logistical information that I'd like you all to be sure and pay attention to. It gives you in one brief snapshot, like an overview of what each day is like, and then where you need to come whenever you're traveling here. So everyone's staying at the Purdue Memorial Union Club Hotel on campus, and the address is there. You already have your rooms booked. You'll be staying in single private rooms. And then the parking, if you take a rental car or if you drive here or something like that, the closest parking is across the street from the Purdue Memorial Union Hotel, and that is called the Grant Street Parking Garage. So the address for that, if you're coming by car, is right here. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down to start to look at our schedule. So you all will arrive sometime in the afternoon on Thursday, May 19th, depending on, your travel plans. And if you haven't already, you're responsible for making your own flight or other travel plans, but the other costs for the Institute, like the hotel and the registration and the meals, are all being covered. So that's really your only part, I think, in terms of cost, is your transportation here. And then there will be a welcome dinner after you all check in. That starts at 6 p.m. and it's in the hotel where you will all be staying. So you'll come in, check into the hotel, hopefully have an hour or a couple hours to, rest, or if maybe not, and then join us in the Purdue Memorial Union West Faculty Lounge at 6 p.m. So we will introduce everyone again then, and then we will go over kind of some advice from our advisory board. So most of the people on the facilitators and speakers list and the advisory board, or a good chunk of them, are actually past participants of ALI. So we're going to just have kind of a very informal panel discussion with you all over dinner about, like, what did I personally get out of ALI and what advice would I have, for you all to get the most out of the week. So that will be by the advisory board members. And then our first full day is Friday, May 20th. And so we'll start off, we'll have continental breakfast every morning. I don't know exactly what's being provided, but if you have special dietary needs, please let us know. You should have received a survey, I think either from Purdue Conferences or one of our host team, but basically that's where you would want to be sure and indicate, if you have dietary needs, any allergies or things you want to make us aware of, maybe you're vegetarian or vegan. We need to know those things so we can prepare the foods. And then the other piece of that is if you need any other accommodations beyond, meals, please let us know. So you see here that the contact person is Nick Bonora, who is the director of Purdue Conferences, and I can connect you with him directly if you didn't take the survey or if there's something you forgot to fill out. But that is really an important thing on your part to do before you get here to make sure that we're fully prepared for you. So our first real session after breakfast will be just a group discussion amongst all of us about what are some current issues we're facing in leading and managing archives today. And this will be where each of you will share for 5 minutes an issue that you're facing, and it could be any issue you're facing, no matter how big or how small. It's just a way for us to kind of get a list going of some potential issues we want to discuss further. And also later in the week, we'll have some unconference time where we can break into groups and talk about the things that are most important to us. And so it gives us a good way to begin kind of making that list of things we might want to talk about at the end of the week. After that, Masood Akdir, who's also on our local host team, he's not able to join us today, but his areas of expertise are in human resources and technology, and he and I are going to talk in the morning about qualities of good leaders. And then Chris Atchison-Clare will go over some of your pre-assessment survey results, sort of in summary. We won't be speaking in the group about individual results, but you will get your individual results privately. And then Chris will address, what are some common themes we're seeing in the answers, just to give people a sense of where the cohort is. And then Masood will talk about discovering your personal leadership style and how to strengthen that. Then we'll break for lunch and we'll continue our morning discussions. We do offer breaks. We have breakfast, morning break, lunch, afternoon break, and dinner. So there will be plenty of time, if you need a little break to step out for a minute or make a phone call, those times are available. So once we get into the afternoon on that first full day, Nastasha is going to be talking with you about how to develop your own personal mission and vision statements, which is a great introduction to this leadership action development planning process that we're going to work with you on pretty much throughout the week. So what you will see if you go to the Google Drive folder that I'll share with you at the end of the meeting, there is a form for leadership action development planning. And we want you all to look at that form before you come, because on the last day of the Institute, you're going to fill that out and it will be something you take with you for your own personal development and growth, sort of like a next steps after the Institute type document that's just for you personally. But it helps to look at the questions on that document in advance so that throughout the week you can take notes on things you might want to include in your answers later. And then we'll wrap up each day, being sure to give you all time to just reflect on what we have discussed that day. And we will have really short little surveys that we'll share with you that will allow you to give feedback each day on each session. And they're very fast. It won't take a lot of your time. But that information is really important because what it means is if you all say something like, the room is too cold, or, I wasn't able to get this reading or whatever, we can get that taken care of for you the next day. So it's a way for us to kind of check in on how things are going and making improvements as we go. The last thing on the first full day is an escape room adventure. And this is mostly for fun, but also to kind of allow you to do some team building together. So it'll help you get to know the other members of the cohort and kind of, face a common challenge together that isn't quite as challenging as probably many of the things you face every day in your work. So that's kind of your fun time to get to know each other, and we'll have pizza provided on that day. Any questions about what I've gone over so far? And just keep in mind, I can't see you, so I need you to tell me if you have a question. All right, we'll keep going. So Saturday, the second full day, again, we'll start with breakfast, and then we are doing intercultural competencies that day, as well as equity, diversity, inclusion, and belonging, and accessibility. So Rebecca Hankins, who has joined us here, is going to be leading that, along with Chris Atchison-Clare and Nastasha Johnson from our local host team. All of them have expertise in this topic, but Rebecca is able to kind of dive deeply into some specific issues facing archivists in these areas. So it's going to be a really good, I think, day. We will take a break and then we'll continue those discussions. And then after lunch, I'm going to lead a little short very informal thing on just like self-care and leadership. Like just from my own perspective, as my career has progressed, I've had to put much more intention behind self-care. And I think it's something that we're starting to see in the literature about the holistic leader, you know, how it's very important that you not just have the right skills and experience and knowledge, but that you have the tools to take care of yourself so you can continue to operate in high stress situations. So we will either do, you know, some short meditation breathing exercises, which are very easy and which I'll lead with, or we might just talk in a group about ways we all find helpful to distress. So it's very loose, but it's just meant to show you all that, in my opinion, that's a very important topic for a leader to pay attention to. And then we will continue with intercultural competencies, skill development, and DEI and belonging. And then we'll have time for you to take notes and reflect on what you've learned for the day. We'll have dinner, and then on Sunday, we'll start in with strategic communication for archivists. This is an area that could slightly change. I just want to give you all a heads up because Kathleen Rowe is talking about archival advocacy and awareness. And in talking with her, I believe some of my presentation might overlap with hers. So just bear with us. We might end up changing that topic to something like doing a quick and easy strategic plan for your archives, or we might, you know, just use it for some issues that you all have brought up that you'd really like to have time to discuss. So those 2 hours on Sunday morning are tentative right now. After lunch, we have a walking tour to Purdue's Black Cultural Center, which is an amazing resource. It's the oldest cultural center on our campus, and it was founded in the late 60s, early 70s, and they have a fantastic library as well as an amazing art collection. And it's also just a really cool way to kind of get a sense of, you know, what would be some potential ways you might want to partner with places like this, whether you work at a university or maybe, you know, you work at government archives or a museum, but there's like a local group, you know, that has something to do with equity that maybe you want to, you know, engage with. So it's a good opportunity to learn about the Black Cultural Center at Purdue, but also to talk with the really knowledgeable folks there about, you know, how are some ways that they have collaborated with the archives at Purdue, just to kind of give you some ideas if you haven't gone that route yet. And then we will get into our unconference discussion. So in our previous institute, this was a very popular part of the institute. So we decided to give it a little more time this year. What we do is, like I said, at the beginning of the week, we discuss some issues we're facing, and we start a list of things we all would really like to talk with each other about. And so by this afternoon on Sunday, we'll have voted, you know, on whiteboards, we'll list all the topics, and then each person will go by and do tick marks based on the ones they really want to talk about. We'll choose, you know, those top topics, and then we'll break into groups so that you all can be in kind of a small conversation with other people who are really interested in diving into that topic. And then we'll have a break, and you'll have your journaling time, and then we'll go to dinner that evening. So on Monday, our first session is on archival advocacy and awareness, and that's being offered by Kathleen Rowe. And she will, just like Rebecca, she will be our main facilitator and speaker for that day. And you will have some required readings that I'll be sharing with you today that are for Kathleen and Rebecca's presentations. We would really like you to read those before the Institute. But if you get in a bind, they will be on Google Drive. So if you end up having to read them the night before while you're at the Institute, that's fine too. Just please read them, you know, before the session starts. So that will go on in the morning, and then from 1 to 3, we will pick up on those important topics in our unconference discussions. And those, we might decide that day to talk about totally different things, or we might decide, you know, based on popular opinion that you all want a little more time to dive in. And, you know, one thing that I think would be an amazing outcome, and there's no pressure from me, but, you know, sometimes people ask, you know, what should be my output from the Institute? And, you know, my response is always, you know, that's for your own personal development and growth. And that's part of why we are helping you develop these leadership plans. But some people really like to be kind of given action items. And so one thing that you all could consider is when we get into these unconference group discussions, you know, maybe there's an article or a presentation you want to do with the people you're talking about, because suddenly you realize after talking with, you know, three to five colleagues on the same issue that you all have a lot to say that hasn't been shared in the literature or hasn't been shared at a conference or even an informal meeting of some kind. So that's something you could tuck into the back of your mind if you really would like to have, you know, some solid output from the Institute. You certainly, you know, are encouraged to think about ways that you might share what you learn, whether it's formally or informally. We will then take a break, and then we'll have a tour of the Purdue Archives and Special Collections. And we'll have up next to the archives, we have a meeting room where we'll have a box dinner provided right after that tour. And that'll just give everybody a chance to network a little bit or just relax and chat over a meal. Tuesday, the 24th, we will start with a tour of the Purdue Envision Center. This is kind of a data visualization type center. I'm probably not describing it correctly, but they do a lot of virtual reality and augmented reality and really fancy, cool GIS stuff. And it's just a fun way to kind of see some of the emerging technologies that, you know, are happening that folks involved in that at Purdue are pursuing. And then it will tie in with Heather Calloway's presentations on emerging technologies later in the day. So we'll be moving from, you know, different buildings here. I've specified that here on the schedule that we have a couple different locations we're going to, but just know everything is within 5-minute walking distance or less. But if you do need help with transportation, please let us know. We're happy to help, you know, however we can. But I think that if in general you don't have, you know, problems like taking a walk around the block, you should be fine. We're all very close with our locations. So Heather's going to, Heather couldn't join us today, but she is director of, I think, university collections at Indiana University, and her area of research and expertise is on GLAM institutions' use of emerging technologies. So libraries, archives, museums, historical societies, she studies ways that they use technology to communicate or to increase access to collections. So she's going to talk with us about some ways that these institutions are using things like virtual reality to communicate their messages, or maybe to like recreate a historic place. You know, some people work at like house museums, for example, and so there's ways that you could potentially provide like a virtual tour or something like that for people who can't come on site. It's just a good way to kind of market what you have in a way that might reach new audiences through, you know, these emerging technologies. And then we will wrap up our leadership action plan. So again, that's why we show those to you in advance, because there are some questions you'll fill out, and this is not turned into us, it's only for your own use. But what we learned last time is that people really wanted time to think about those questions during the week, and that's why we're introducing it the first day and then picking up on finishing it the last full day. After that, you'll have a little bit of free time, and then we will have a group dinner back in the Purdue Memorial Union. The very last day is a short day, and you know, because people's travel plans might vary quite a bit, we kept this mostly optional. So you will have continental breakfast, and then we will, for those of you who can stay, and we really hope you can stay at least till noon, we will talk with you about what went well at the Institute, what you think could be improved, and then you'll have time, if you want to, there's no requirement for this, but we have 4 members of our advisory board, and we have 4 members of our local grant host team, all of which are available for you to make an appointment with for like one-on-one consultation. If you just want like a second set of eyes on your leadership development plan, or maybe you just want some advice from someone who works in a similar institutional setting, you know, whatever it is you would like to talk about, you can set up like a 20-minute session with one of those 8 people if you're able to stay until noon. And after that, the Institute ends. So technically the programming actually stops after breakfast. Everything else is optional that day. But I think for those of you who can make it, you might find it really valuable just to have time to get to know some of the senior archivists involved in the Institute. Okay, so any questions about the schedule? Okay, so I'm going to go back to the Google Drive, and this travel and hotel logistics information was actually emailed to you back in March or maybe early April. But I put it here in case you needed to easily refer back to it, because it kind of gives you an overview of, you know, where to go, what to do, and just it's kind of a quick snapshot of like who, what, when, where, how, why. But if you have any questions about that, or you know, feel free to bring that up. I won't read through it with you today, but I just wanted you to know it's there if you need it. And then our final folder here is our required readings. So for most of the sessions, there's not much required, but we do have for our EDI day and for our advocacy day, we have some readings that we really want you to look over. So on May 20th, all you have to do is familiarize yourself with the Leadership Action Development Plan form. And I probably need to even, you know, put this year's dates and such on this, unless Nastasha did that already. Oh, it looks like maybe she did. So all we need you to do on this one is just look at what the questions are going to be in advance. You don't have to answer them. We'll go to May 21st. So this is Rebecca Hankins and Chris and Nastasha's day. So Rebecca has some articles here that she'd really like for you to read in advance. So those are all provided. We'll go back to the 23rd. So there's no readings on the 22nd. So that's why that day is missing. On the 23rd, Kathleen Rowe is going over advocacy and awareness. She has one article here, but she also has 14 pages from her book on archival advocacy and awareness that she'd like you to look at. That is not here yet because I haven't finished scanning those pages, but I promise to get them to you by 10 p.m. tonight. I promise. And then, let's see, was that the last of the readings? May 24th. Okay, again, this is just your action plan because that's the day that we're actually going to have you fill them out. So I just popped it in here. So as you can see, so far you are going to have 5 readings, 4 articles and 2 book chapters, and the book chapters total about 15 pages. So it's not too long, but that is enough advanced readings that you may want to get started on them before you travel. And it's completely up to you how you want to do that. But I just wanted you to be aware. Okay, so I have gone over everything on our Google Drive. And again, I will send that out to you all, the link to it at the end of the day today. And I think all we have left now is time for your questions. So if any of you have a question now, feel free, please, to jump in. You can either go ahead and ask it or you can raise your hand, whatever you're comfortable with. Wow, either I talk too much or everybody's tired and ready for lunch.
Hey, Sammy, I have a couple of questions.
Yeah, go ahead, please, Lotus.
Thanks. So one was just thinking of the spaces that we'll be in. Do you have any tips on clothing? Like, is it warm, cold, that kind of thing would be great to know. And then my other question was about some of the after dinner or dinner activities. Does it kind of list where it's optional? It's an awesome schedule, but I think some of the days might be a little bit long. So I'm wondering if like all the dinners are optional or required or things like that.
Yeah, good questions. And I don't want to forget each part of them. So please remind me if I don't answer the second one. I wanted to start with your first question about clothing. So Indiana is usually fairly mild in the spring and summer months, especially the early summer months, but we might get rain or we might get a short cold spell. Usually after Mother's Day, it's safe to plant your bulbs or whatever. So, there's less likelihood of it getting really cold after Mother's Day, but it does happen. So what I would suggest is bring layers. It's also possible, depending on what's going on with the building we're in that day, that it could be cold or it could be warm. So I think it's just good to kind of have some options. I'm going to be probably dressed fairly informally because since the pandemic, I am anti-restrictive clothing, but I will, wear undergarments and such. But just to let you know, you can dress however you like. The most important thing is dress in a way that you're comfortable and confident, whatever that might be. The second question you had was what, Lotus? I'm sorry, I've already forgotten.
Oh, just on the schedule, will it list kind of when things in the evenings are optional or required?
Yes, it does. And I will double check that because I think that we have 2 optional dinners and that the rest are, not optional. But that being said, I mean, if you have a really bad day and just need to relax in your room, no one's going to give you a bad report card or anything like that. We're all adults and we need to practice good self-care. We really want you to come to the first dinners, especially because it's your chance to get to know each other. And when I attended the Institute back in, the antiquated year of 2008, I was extremely shy, and I still am a shy person, but I've gotten a lot better. And I didn't speak to people the first couple days, and I always really regretted that because the folks that did take the courage to get to know each other really bonded in those first few days. And so by the end of the week, I knew everybody really well, and I felt like they were part of my network for life. But it does require moving out of your comfort zone a bit if you're an introvert, or maybe you're just kind of a quiet person. And I guess what I would just say is, no one's going to ever chastise or shame you for how you behave. If you just behave the way you want to behave. But I think that you will get more out of it if you can try to attend some of the social stuff early on, because it really, for me, the most valuable part of the Institute was getting to know the cohort. And every person I went to that Institute with is like a friend and mentor of mine now, or a great colleague that I can call on for advice. So that really is, in my opinion, the most valuable part of the Institute is you get a week to get to know a small group of other archivists who, if you ever run for office in an SAA or MAC or something, you're going to have a lot of people now who know who you are and might vote for you. But it's also about, just having a personal network that you could call on if you're having like a really bad issue in your archive and you just want to get some advice from someone you've gotten to know well and can trust, that they have your best interest at heart. So that's my long-winded answer of saying, there's 2 optional dinners when you can do whatever you want. The other 4 or 5 dinners we would like you to attend, but we certainly understand that things come up if you're sick or you're just not feeling it. No one's going to say anything to you if you miss it. It's just kind of up to you whether you are willing to, put that emotional and energy and time into those things that could be hard at the beginning of the week when you don't know each other that well. And that's another reason why we had this call today, so that we could at least all get names with faces, so that you all felt comfortable, kind of having a sense of who everybody was. Terrific questions. Somebody else said something. Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, so the participants last time at the Institute organized their own game night because they wanted to spend more time with each other. And we really took that to heart. So that's why we arranged the social events in the evening for people just to have a chance to socialize outside of the formal, sort of classroom setting. And we will actually have games available for people to check out. We don't know if the hotel will hold those for us and let you check them out from the lobby, or if we need to do that in the afternoons at the end of the day of the Institute. But we'll provide those things for you so that you have a way to interact in the evening, whether or not you go to dinner. You can take those to your rooms, or you can go outside someplace or in the lobby of the hotel or wherever, and have another avenue of just interacting with each other and getting to know each other.
Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. And if any of you have, cards or games you love that you want to, encourage someone to play with you, feel free to bring them. Your free time is completely up to you. But what's nice is that you're all staying in the same hotel. And so, if you want to hang out in the lobby or, anywhere else you want to hang out, you're in close proximity. And that's really nice for having informal networking and those interesting discussions that happen when you just kind of run into each other. So what other questions do we have? I can't tell if someone joined us or if they raised their hand. Let's see.
Yeah, I think somebody did just pop in.
Oh, okay.
While we're waiting for questions, I also wanted to say, and maybe you said this and I missed it, Tammy, but for those of you who like to have things in your phone and reminders about what's happening next in your phone calendar, you don't need to put all those things in yourself. We're going to send Outlook appointments to everyone, and then you can import those into your calendar. So So just wait on that. We want to make sure that the schedule is finalized before we do that so that we don't have a lot of updates to the appointments. But for the Institute times during the day, as well as the evening events, we will put where you're supposed to be and whether, it's an optional or not, and whether or not there's food there, and all those kinds of things will be in calendar appointments that we'll give you.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Chris. And also the little mini assessments we do during the week, we did those in paper form last time. And so this time that's going to be in surveys that you can easily do like on your phone or, a local computer. So any other questions? I just want to make sure I'm not leaving out anything you all might be worrying about, in terms of your travel or anything like that. Okay. Okay. Go ahead.
I have a question. And I'm so sorry to drop the bombshell, the COVID bombshell, but I assume we're following whatever protocols are of the county that we're in, and following our comfort level in terms of
Campus is open right now. We have 92% immunity rate on campus right now, and 90% vaccination rate. So we've done a really good job as a community of controlling spread. There's still a lot of masks on campus, you'll notice, especially in crowded spaces, but it's not mandated right now. So the policy here is absolutely follow your comfort level. If you want to mask up, go for it. And if you're comfortable unmasked, that's fine too. And if that's something that folks want to talk about as a group on the first day and make a collective decision, we would be open to making that be a consensus that people come to as well.
Thanks.
Yeah, I will echo what Chris said, just to say that this is such a time of uncertainty. And I'm sure all of you have had the same experience I have of just sort of, what are we doing today? Is it masked today or not masked today? But I think that Chris has not exaggerated at all, that Purdue has really done an outstanding job of, creating a safe place for people to learn. In fact, they've been quite strict about, you either have to show that you've been vaccinated or you have to go for random tests, and you just get called in, whether you're student, faculty, or staff. If you haven't shown that you're vaccinated, you're going to get random testing regularly. So that's how we have such high immunity rates of over 90% of our Purdue community. Now, when you get into the local area, I don't know what those rates are, but if any of you are interested, I could send you, links to where that information would be. But I will say that, please do bring a mask and wear a mask if you want to. If you are someone who really want everybody else to wear a mask, then please talk with us, because we need to kind of figure that out, how that might work if we decide to go that route. And my thought is we might want to, figure out how to spread ourselves out more. There's a lot of things that we need to think about, that if you have a high level of concern, we really want you to share that with us. And you can email me privately or call or text me. My information's on the travel and logistics document on Google Drive that I'll share with you later today. So, do please let us know of any concerns, because we can't address them if we aren't aware. And anything that we can do to make this as safe and pleasant of an experience, we will do. So just, please know that, and don't hesitate to reach out if you do have those concerns. Great questions so far. Do we have any others? Edith, please go ahead.
On a related note, is there space in the first day before we really get into conversation norms based on our collective feedback?
I'm sorry, Edith, from my end, it broke up whenever you were in the middle of your sentence. Would you mind repeating that?
Sure. Is there space on the first day for us to create group norms for our conversations?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. We did that previously, and we will do that again. I think it's really important that we as a group with each other, kind of define like how we're going to interact and, what our standards for communication will be. And you might have seen that in some of the information we sent already, there was some information about, respectful communication and things like that. Purdue is, has, non-harassment policies and, the place where you'll be will be a place where people are used to communicating respectfully. But all that being said, I think there's a lot of value in you all as a cohort, kind of stating openly with each other, this is what we expect of ourselves, because, we can't, have a kind of common understanding of behavior otherwise. And for each person, things might be slightly different. So it's a great way to not only get to know each other, but kind of set some intentions for the week and also, kind of start the week off with the right vibe, I would say. So yeah, we will be doing that. And thanks for that great question. Any others? I've started practicing counting to 5 Mississippi when I ask questions because every so often there's kind of someone who's thinking about asking, but they haven't quite asked it yet. So, but I don't see any hands, so.
I'll say, I have one more, Sammy. Yeah. I just want to say that I'm happy to share my phone number and personal email address if anyone wants to communicate before the Institute, if we get there early and want to meet up or whatever. I'm happy to share that information either on Google Drive or just email me, and I'm happy to do that. I think that. Oh,
that's awesome. One thing that we could do is if you would like to share that information with the rest of the cohort, if you send that information to me, I can gather that and send it out to the whole cohort. We probably would want to, get that information, a week before the Institute. So sometime next week, if you could get that to me. And I think it is a great way for you all to follow up with each other, either before or after. So great suggestion. I put my cell phone on there as well because I am on leave from Purdue right now for research sabbatical, and I'm not checking my email every second the way I typically do. So, if there is something time sensitive, please do call or text me. And again, that information is on the travel and logistics form. Let's see. Lydia asked, would people want to use something like WhatsApp? I think that sounds like a great idea. I have not had experience setting up groups on there, but I'm sure we have someone who could do that. Or if you all wanted to take the lead on that and just have it be a group of just the participants where the rest of us aren't listening in or whatever, then I think that's a terrific idea too.
It's whatever's easiest for everyone. I've used it with to keep in touch with, colleagues at a former institution, and it's just an ongoing chain, spanning a year. And it just makes it a little easier to keep track of as opposed to like a group text message, but whatever the group is comfortable with works for me.
I guess what I would say is this, let me know today, please, if you don't want your personal or work email shared, the one that you gave to us, whenever you applied, because that is listed in the directory. And what we can do is I can remove any of those, by tonight so that it doesn't go out to everybody. But once it goes out, you all will have the ability to connect however you want, because you can email each other and then say, let's all move to WhatsApp or whatever. So I think it might be good for you, for some of you to all to take the lead on that, because I don't want it to feel like, we're sort of big brother on those communications. That way you can speak really freely and be like, well, I don't get why we're doing this that day or whatever, whatever you want to say. And you can also start to get to know each other, or maybe, maybe some of you want to carpool from the airport, whatever. So I think that's a great idea. And right now we do have everyone's email address listed, but again, please, if you don't want your email address there, I need to know that by no later than 8 p.m. today, Eastern. Okay, any other questions or comments? We've got about 10 minutes left, but we don't have to take the whole time. Lydia said, I live in Indy and I'm happy to give anyone a ride from the airport. Well, that's a great offer. you all may have seen, if you've looked at the travel information we sent out by email, that Purdue is about an hour from the Indianapolis airport, which is where you will be coming into if you fly. So you will need to either arrange for a taxi, an Uber, a shuttle, a rental car, carpool. There's a lot of options, and I list a lot of those in the logistics information that went out by email. But you also, can feel free to connect here or later amongst yourselves if you want to, get together and share rides or whatever. Okay. I'm going to do a last call for questions. 7 seconds. Okay, we're going to end a little bit early. I have not eaten, so that's why I'm in a bit of a rush. My puppy gets walked constantly and fed constantly, and I get the scraps after he's asleep. So just kidding, a little bit. I am so honored and pleased and delighted to see all of you and to put names with faces, and I cannot wait to welcome you to Purdue and get to know you all better. And I do hope that if you have questions after this that maybe you want to ask privately and not in a group, that you will feel free to reach out to me or Chris or Nastasha on, someone on the local team, and we will happily get back with you just as soon as we can. So we've got 2 weeks till the Institute, and I think everything's going well so far. So just let me know if anything does come up, and we will be back in touch with you as soon as we can. So thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and can't wait to meet you. Thanks, everybody.